Okay. This is going to be a public hearing. Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves around the table. Commissioner Moser.
Commissioner Tubby.
Commissioner Huff.
Jason Dixon, Bannock County Clerk.
Aaron Morris, Civil Paralegal.
Ray Clayton, Chief Staff Position.
Krista Clauser, Bannock County Comptroller.
Nancy Allen, Deputy Clerk.
Okay. Purpose of this meeting is a public hearing on fiscal year 2022 budget. The way we'll end up going is that we'll have a report of what the budget is and what's going on. Then we have the opportunity for public testimony. First we'll have those that are proponents, and then we'll have those that are opponents of it. All speakers must speak into the microphone and give their name and address. All comments should be addressed to the hearing body, meaning the commissioners, and it should be relevant to the application and should not be of personal nature. There will be a 3-minute time limit. Avoid repetitive comments. If there are large numbers of people joined together, we would ask that one person represent the group. And unruly behavior such as booing or hissing or harassing remarks is prohibited. Then we'll have final comments by staff, and then the hearing will be closed.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we open the public hearing on the budget as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. We'll go ahead and let Commissioner Huff present.
Right, thank you. As previously stated, I'm Commissioner Huff, and I thank the Chair for giving me the opportunity to present the budget today. Again, my presentation is similar like it was last year, very high level. I'm assuming everybody's had an opportunity to dive into the numbers somewhere else, so this will be a high-level discussion. But I do want to begin by thanking all of the department heads. Our budgeting process this year was incredibly smooth. We asked the department heads to do some things, and they came in and did that, and it was fantastic. And then I also want to extend a huge thanks to the clerk's office, both Jason and Christy, and their efforts. Again, they invited us to some of their meetings with the department heads. We went through, millions of lines of budget stuff and budget requests, and we had a fantastic time. It was a great experience, and I felt like we came together and put together a very good budget this year. So very pleased with the process. So with any budget, the question that I get all the time is, are you going to do anything about the levy amount? Is your budget, how does that impact the levy? Well, real quickly, the levy breakdown for Bannock County is spent in a lot of different ways, but primarily the Justice Fund takes up the biggest portion of the levies that are charged for Bannock County residents. That Justice Fund equals about 12%. These are last year's numbers. We won't have this year's levy numbers for, another month or so, Christy? Maybe even a little bit more than that. We have 3% a year we spend in charity, 2% goes to our current fund, and the other big spender is the district court, which is about 2%. And I apologize, those numbers are kind of hard to read, but that is what it is. So we'll go from there. So this year, as it should be 2022 budget considerations, we had several things that we were considering, but the biggest thing that we wanted to make sure of this year was that all of our employees received a 3% budget or 3% cost of living increase. And part of our meeting with our department heads was to say that we're going to budget for a 3% cost of living, but we want you to take it out of the bottom part of your budget. So we try to keep the budget as flat as we could. And I'm proud to say that most of our department heads did a really good job of that. And so that was Commissioner Moser's big thing, is to do the employee cost of living raise. And Commissioner Moser, I'm proud to report that we got her done. We got her done. So excited about that. The other huge budget concern we had is last year we received $5.2 million in COVID relief funds from Governor Little, which resulted in a 16% reduction of the levy. Now, going into the budget this year, if we take that money out plus our normal budget increase, there's going to be a very large hit on the levy. And so that was a huge consideration that we struggled with, trying to balance that along with the 3% increase that we are allowed by state law. So trying to give raises, trying to not make the budget hit so big to compensate for the reduction of not having the COVID relief funds. That was our challenge as we went forward. So, in high-level numbers, for the last 3 years, our budget has gone from $71.7 million in 2020 to this year, we went to $93.5 million. And I'll talk about the jump between the 71, the 74, and the 93 here in just a minute. Our total taxable, which is what the levy's calculated on, went from 29.5 down to 20.2 is where we're at this year. So again, we worked hard. And what that means, is that the wrong number, Christie? Oh, yeah, 30.2, excuse me, that's a typo on my part, that should be 30.2, I'll change that.
I was like,
thinking, man,
holy crap, we did
crushed it.
really,
We crushed it. When I looked
Wow.
at it, that's
However
not
I
quite
did
right, so, thank you. I will get that fixed for the record, Nancy, that should be 30.2, not 20.2. But what that means in total dollars is we went from, in 2020, a dollar amount per 100,000 of $571 or $575.1 per 100,000 taxable amount to this year, we're at $540.9 per 100,000. So, job well done. Job well done. So how we were able to do that is we've used a lot of reserves that we had. And I've asked Commissioner Tubby to talk about that a little bit because as what's going on in, there's some discussion about reserves and the appropriate usage of reserves. So Commissioner Tubby, will you speak to that for us?
So right now, and you'll hear it a lot in the Pocatello City Council races and other things that are going on, they keep referring to the use of reserves as considered deficit spending, and the use of reserves is not deficit spending. Deficit spending is a practice that's actually not allowed in the state of Idaho by the state legislature, where you would take the money that we didn't have and to fund the government, you would actually take a loan against next year's taxes. And that's similar to what the federal government has to do when they keep raising the debt ceiling. That's deficit spending, and we don't have that. Reserves should be used for one-time capital expense or a non-reoccurring expense. There's a lot of projects and things that we were able to go in and use reserves for and other things that way, and then understanding even in salaries and some of that 3% adjustment cost that is well within the tolerance of the allowed budgets that we have. The state legislature this last year, I've been trying to find the bill and I can't, but they did pass a bill that came in that said that we need to have reasonable reserves. Some municipalities and cities and other ones had huge amounts of reserves, and we typically try and keep at least 6 months on the reserves between the tax payments that we have so we can keep the government functioning in case there's anything that way that's going on. So we should have a prudent reserve, which we do have. We have a very prudent reserve that's there to make sure that we can operate the government, but then the reserves that were left over, we use for a lot of those one-time projects or other things to do. And people will ask, well, how do reserves occur? Well, department heads, good job. In the last couple of years, maybe you don't expend your full 100% of budget. You only expend 95% of your budget. That leftover amount gets rolled over into a reserve fund. And so those reserves will go in here, allocated levies. Those reserve funds cannot change levies. They have to stay where they're at. But we were able to use that, and it does help us out immensely. But that is allowed, and it's actually encouraged quite heavily by the legislature. So we followed their guidance this year, and that's what we did.
Okay, thank you. So with that, our goal was to have no more than 1.5% budget increase. Again, we were allowed the 3%. And again, trying to offset the governor's COVID relief funds and everything that we had. Our goal was to try to stay within that 1.5%, which I think we nailed that. So to clarify the budget, you saw the number a few minutes ago that we had a $93.5 million budget. What that includes is an increase in grant funding, and I'll talk about that here in just a minute. The grant funding is roughly $17.9 million, which takes us to an actual budget of $75.6. So comparing that to the 2021 actual budget of 74, we nailed our 1.5%. We did a good job. Again, the staff and everybody worked hard to get us there, and I think we did a good job with that. So looking forward to 2021, we have the American Rescue Plan, or the Arpa Funds, and Bannock County received $17 million of ARPA funds, and that's part of that 17.9 that I showed on that previous slide. So when that amount was first released, we were really excited because we thought we could use it on a lot of different things. And with all things government, that changed on a daily basis and almost continues to change even now on a daily basis. But we're pretty close to having a finalized thing of what we can use those funds for. So some of the things that we're considering usage of the funds is office space. We're full, busting at the seams here at the courthouse. We're considering some office space options. We're looking at putting together a forensic pathologist here in the county, which would be very, very huge for us. We're continuing to look at the jail expansion, and again, when we received the ARPA funds originally, we thought that would go exclusively to the jail, or not exclusively, but primarily a lot of it would go to the jail expansion, but the ARPA funds prohibited us from doing that. So again, we're still waiting for final clarification if we can use funds for that or not. So the jail expansion for this point in time is sitting on the shelf, waiting patiently for a green light, but we're not sure if we're gonna get one just yet. We'll continue to work on our landfill expansion, and the other couple of things that we're looking at is some infrastructure, both in sewer and fiber optics, more down in South County, a little bit here in the north end of the county, but those are the projects that we're looking at using some of that $17 million for. And so with that, Mr. Chair, that concludes the presentation that I had prepared for today.
Along the line of the $17 million, we have received half of that at the current time, and then in 2022, we'll receive the other half, so. So, did we have anybody sign up to speak? So, no one has signed up to speak.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we close the public hearing at this time.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Conversation between staff.
I'd ask for any other elected officials' comments.
I'll point out one small mistake, because I think it's a good mistake, and that is that the raises that we worked in cutting other budget lines so that we could give raises was actually 3.5%. Not a big difference, but on the slide it was 3%, and staff will be getting 3.5. So that's the only thing. Good job, Jeff.
I'll correct that move.
Hey, that's how we do this, though.
We should have
Because,
had
and the
Jason
reason I bring that up is, as you go back and say a 3% raise or a cost of living increase, you know, we've been beat up pretty bad the last few years for not giving raises, and so I think every little half a point counts. So, and I would also like to agree that the budget process this year was the best that we've ever had since I've been here 3 times. 3rd time's the charm. Okay, 4th time will be a home run. So, thanks a bunch.
Any other elected officials? Comment? No, sir. All right, I would call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the fiscal year 2022 budget as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously. I'm gonna make that a resolution. With that being said, thank you for attending, and we are adjourned.
Woohoo!
Pause for celebration.
Again, I'm disappointed.
Quickly.
No one